back.
a week, right?
Yeah, this is a Tuesday.
We're doing a Tuesday. We've been doing Friday, Monday.
Sorry, it's so weird when somebody calls you and then it just goes black. Did you just see that?
No,
Yeah.
well, it just says your name, so at least we know that you're there.
It's weird though if I got like captured or murdered and then my name's still up there where you think I'm still there, but I'm just dead.
Yeah, I was thinking about that with my sister. Went on a trip with a guy that we didn't really know about to Yellowstone. And
Recently?
and I was like, that's so, and then I just, your imagination goes, I was like, what if he murders her, but then took all these photos while they're on vacation and then over time just slowly released it. So I just thought that she was on a long vacation.
Yeah, and then they're also like really good pictures that she can't even put as her profile pic because she's just dead.
She's just dead. I know. I was like, oh, that would be like a good kind of storyline in a murder mystery where they're like, she couldn't have died. She's been putting up photos. And you're like, no, he just took a whole bunch.
He's just, you have to watch the killing season. It's
okay.
So it's basically just how they kind of figure out, they have all these serial killers in all these different places, like Oklahoma City, Daytona Beach.
Is this for real though? Or is it?
No, it's for real. It's like a documentary that's, I think, 7 or 8 episodes. The sad thing is they basically don't find any of them, which is upsetting. But
the serial killers?
Yeah, but it just shows you how prevalent it is that they're serial killers, and they kind of, I mean, you're also talking to others. There's one guy that they caught that is in jail, and he was kind of giving some intel about the other serial killers, and a lot of them are truckers, and they will just go over state lines, and then they'll meet up with other truckers. There's like this whole big community of truck drivers who are like serial killers, and they will like switch bodies for each other and shit. It's like so crazy, this world that most people don't know anything about.
That's wild.
And because they're targeting
like prostitutes
or
runaways.
Yeah, people that are hooked on drugs. Nobody really looks for them, and it's so sad. So you'll have like 8 women who will be found, and a lot of them are found along like beaches, but kind of in the, not woods, but like where there's all like the kind of mucky area where it's like just
like brackish.
Yeah, so like Gilco Beach, that's like right in Long Island. There's like just, I think they found like 8 bodies or something, and then Daytona Beach, and then it's just crazy. It's just like insane the amount of women that get killed and they just don't follow up on. So I think they went back to Long Island and they fired the police chief because the FBI was going to get involved, and they said no, it's not necessary. So like they didn't open investigations on these like 8 or 10 bodies that they found. So it's just like, it's bizarre.
Yeah, it sounds like it's hard to catch serial killers.
I just feel like if a serial killer was really good at what he did, he would kill people who were more visible, and it would be harder to get away with it. Like, it just seems so easy to kill people that are like on drugs, that are like, people don't really care about it. It just seems so fucked up. Like, challenge yourself and kill like high profile people.
Yeah, like celebrities, like a celebrity serial killer.
Yeah, or just like somebody that's like a big fixture in the community. You're just killing these poor women who are already like down on their luck. Do you know what I mean? Like, also you just see like how you get hooked on drugs and like your whole life just changes. Like just the places that they're hanging out, and you're like, it's so sad. Cleveland was another area where I don't know if they were hookers or not, but it was just like a lot of low income people that were just getting, and they're mostly women.
Yeah, I watched one show where it was in a predominantly like really bad neighborhood, and they were having all kinds of women getting murdered, and it was just kind of like this guy that I wouldn't even normally wonder if he was a serial killer, but he just didn't give a shit about them since they were prostitutes. So if they didn't do what he wanted, he would basically just like get and like strangle them to death and then just discard them in like his backyard. Like there was no attachment that there was a life. It's like, it almost feels like some people with certain people that they're dealing with don't treat them as actual human beings. Like
yeah,
psychopaths.
and also, yeah, and just the things that you find. There's also, they think a lot of law enforcement that is involved in it too. Like they said
Weird.
this one I don't know if he was like a commissioner or a captain. They said he would actually tell the girls that they were killing them. Like he said to these girls, "We're killing you guys because we want you to stay off the street." So they actually asked this guy who had since retired. They asked him questions because they said he had kept a book of all the pictures of the hookers. And he had a book where he said, these were all the hookers that I killed and raped. So they call this police guy up after he's retired and they're like, hey, do you have pictures of these girls? He's like, but he doesn't know what they know. You know what I mean? So he's like, hey, do you still have pictures of these girls? He's like, I have some of them, maybe like 30 or 40.
That's a lot.
And he go, that's a lot. But he doesn't know that they've talked to somebody who says he's keeping these pictures of girls as like trophies.
Yeah.
And then they asked him, you know, what did you tell these girls who was doing this? And he goes, well, we would just tell them we were killing them so that they would stop doing it. And they were like, what? They were like, can you repeat that? Because that's such a crazy thing to say to someone.
Yeah.
And then the guy in prison, I'm jumping all over because that's how the show was. It was like different cities all the time. This one guy says that he knows there's a guy in Long Island who talks to all of these serial killers. He's like best friends with them. He talks to all of them and all of their kills. He has it in a book. And they're like, he's also admitted to doing the killings in, I guess, Long Island. So they go to this guy's house, and he's like in a basement apartment. It kind of looked like that apartment that I went to when the guy wanted me to have that job, and I was like, get the fuck out of here. It kind of looked exactly like that. If it was in Mount Vernon, I would have been like, that's the same house. So you go, this guy lives in a basement apartment. There's like clippings of everything all over the wall, like any like Aaron Hernandez, any murders, any serial killers, it's all over there. He has like it looks like a pack rat's house. There's just papers everywhere, and he writes like correspond. It's so weird, like a serial killer is like writing letters in the midst of killing people, like because he's like corresponding with these people and they, like send them stuff, and I think he starts like 4,000 people or 4,000 kills. It's like insane, because then they say to him, well, that guy that was in prison said that you also did some of these. He goes, well, you kind of have to say that to them so that they'll feel more comfortable telling you about their kills. It's insane. The whole thing is nuts.
That's so wild. It's because it's like those guys manage to find each other, and then some people have a really hard time finding a partner. And I'm like, maybe you're not putting yourself out there enough.
That is actually really funny that they're just finding all these other serial killers, and then there's some girl who's lonely and can't find anyone on eHarmony.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
You're like, you're not putting yourself out there, because if serial killers can find each other, because like, how do you just bring that up?
I don't know how you bring it up. I would just think if a lot of them are truck drivers, I guess they kind of just, they would also say to someone like, hey, I got someone in the cab for you. And I think they would just like switch bodies, because once you drag it over state lines, it's so much harder to get the cops involved, because they'll be like, well, that person's from Texas, so you got to go to Texas. And they're like, well, the body was killed actually in Oklahoma. And they're like, nope. And they just keep pinging you back and forth.
That's so annoying.
It's wild. Yeah, it's wild.
Do you remember there was a serial rapist going around, and they found out it was a stand-up comic because they tracked it because it was happening in all the towns that matched his road date. And how they found him, he did morning radio, and the girl, one of the victims, was like, I know that voice. That's the guy that raped me. And then
holy shit, I've never heard of this.
Yeah, I forgot his name. You can Google it. It happened in the 90s or maybe early 2000s. And it was the girl that started it. And then when they looked at his dates on the road, and then they were all the rapes, it all lined up with all of his shows. And it makes absolute sense.
Yeah, you're in all these different cities. It does make sense. That's so crazy. That guy must be so pissed that he didn't take that off his website.
Yeah, I know. I took my dates off my website just because they're all just in New York. And I was like, no one goes to your website to look at your dates. They're
Sometimes
on
they
Instagram.
I think you're downplaying your fan base. I think sometimes people in New York City will be like, I want to go see Sarah.
But I get most people being like, hey, will you put your dates on Instagram? I'm not on Twitter. And I'm like, well, I don't even put them on Twitter.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Just have them everywhere, Sarah, so that you can get caught. That's so nuts that they actually did that. And then one of the killers actually had called this two women up, and like they were able to get, or he left a message or something where they actually had like a recording of his voice, and then they went to go see him, and they got like they were just talking to him, and they tried to get him to talk so they could tape him again, and then somebody matched them up, and they were like, we think this is a match, we think that's one of the murderers. But it's weird because they don't ever, it just shows you how like it's hard to get the cops to really do anything, how they don't value these women, especially like when you're on drugs, lower economic, like financial status, like they just don't care. And they actually, these two, and it's a lot of people who are like, they have this thing called like sleuths.com. It's a lot of regular people who have regular jobs, and then their passion is trying to find serial killers. So you'll go on the website, and these people have done hundreds of hours of research on all this stuff. It's kind of cool. It's insane though. And you're just like, they're doing more work. I know, they're doing more work. I feel like that's a good way to probably get off social media, is if we got involved in a group like that where we were just trying to solve murders. Like, we wouldn't be on tweeting and stuff.
Yeah, that's why we're here.
We're like, we're trying to stop our social media addiction, so we're going to try and solve some murders.
Well, it's a great way to kill time while we're spiking, because it looks like we're spiking.
We're going back up.
Yeah. Yep,
number one, baby. We're going to be number one again.
No, I always think it would be fun. When we talked to Joe's friend, who's a state trooper, he is a detective now, or part of like with state troop. He solves murders. And I was like, ooh, give me some scoops. Like, what's going on? Can I get some fresh eyes on some cases? And he goes, honestly, most cases solve themselves. It's usually a murder-suicide by like a couple, or it's a guy that's like, hey, I shot someone. I need you guys to come here. And
so a guy just calls on himself.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the times it's like you're just trying to, it's like you're just protecting yourself, and you're like a homeowner and you shot somebody on your property.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I thought there was like somebody who shot someone just because they didn't like them or something.
Yeah.
That is weird to just turn yourself in.
I know. I was just like, oh, that sounds so boring. Like you definitely want some juicy cases, but he doesn't sound like he gets juicy cases.
Well, I think a lot of times they just don't work those cases, because then if they don't solve them, it looks like they have all these open cases that aren't solved. So I think they just get those cases and they're like, put it on a sticky pad, and then they throw it out. Yeah. I don't think because they're like, no one's open investigations on most of these cases. And just like how corrupt some of those like precincts are, and it's so crazy watching it. You're just like, holy crap, there's a whole world that we don't know of, like and they said it's not just like one serial killer. There's hundreds of them.
Yeah. Well, it's like that. I don't know. It makes you wonder, like, what's going on with cops. There's like, is it really busy or hectic? Because there are like solving like crime solving division or whatever. Because I know in Houston for the longest time they had thousands of rape kits untested, where you're like, that seems pretty easy. It's like knocking out small debt. Like, all you have to do is test the rape kit, and you get the DNA, and then from the DNA you got the guy. And usually it's like one guy doing all the raping.
Yeah, it also seems like busy work. Like, just test the rape kits. Do you know what I mean? Like, you ever get to a job and they really have nothing for you to do, so you're just shredding paper for 4 weeks?
Let me do that. I want to. Yeah. Like, that's the job that I want, where you just test rape kits all day and listen to your favorite podcasts and music.
Yeah, or like a great job for an intern. Get like a kid from high school to just come in after school and just test these rape kits. There's just hundreds of them where you're like, guys, why are you sitting on all this evidence? A lot of those times people will already be in your database. So it's weird to just not do that. I don't know.
Yeah. And then the weird one is sometimes they test them and then they realize they put the wrong guy in prison. That happens a lot.
It's like so crazy how like corrupt and backwards all that stuff is. And like some of it is just like they don't have the manpower, and some of it is just straight corruption.
I know, but then when you say that, when they're like, we don't have the manpower, you're like, there's a lot of people that still would like to work.
Of course.
Maybe make some of these jobs like testing rape kits. Like that seems like if you're just dipping it in
Also,
in
I think
solution.
anyone that's testing rape kits, it should just be women. You could get a guy in there who's done half those rapes and he's just throwing them out. I just feel like it should be all women. All like female, like girls from high school after school. Pay them like whatever the minimum wage is to just test rape kits.
Yeah. That sounds like, like would be a really good book series, like the Babysitters Club, but it's just like the Rape Kit Club of like high school girls that test rape kits.
And they just find all their ex-boyfriends. Or they just plant evidence to get their ex-boyfriends that cheated on them and did them wrong.
Yeah, I think we found
just created
a new book series for preteen young adults.
The rape kit club?
Rape Kit Club.
Do you ever read those books? What were they, like Sweet Valley High? Those two sisters.
Sweet Valley High.
I used to read those books all the time. I think I read more as a kid than I do now. But
yeah,
I don't remember anything about the books. Were they like based on murder or anything? I have no idea.
Sweet Valley? No, it was just like it's just like relationships in middle school or high school of just certain dilemmas, like getting caught cheating and how Jessica's going to deal with that. But then who was her sister?
I don't know. One of the sisters was hotter than the other one.
Yeah, and one was like more studious and the other one was more like popular and athletic.
That reminds me of the two sisters from Charles in Charge. Remember there was like the hot one and then there was like the one that
was annoying.
Yeah. Did you ever watch that show?
I love that show. Where
so
he's like,
Charles,
I got us a date.
What was his friend's name? Was it Boner? Or was
Buddy?
Buddy. Boner was
Growing Pains.
What was that other show with Robin Thicke's? Was it Robin Thicke? What's his dad's name? Robert?
Alan Thicke.
Alan Thicke, yes. And Kirk Cameron. I think his friend's name was Boner.
Yes.
Which would be highly inappropriate right now.
Yeah, you couldn't have that. But that was a popular your name for your son's friend. Like the other, like Bill Cosby, his Theo's friend was called Roach.
What weird names to give people.
I know, but it was like that was just a thing that I was like, none of my friends and none of my brother's guy friends had nicknames like that.
Boner, where you're just like getting a hard on, and Roach, which is just like, it's just such a weird name for, I guess it was kind of just funny back then.
Yeah.
But Charles in Charge was great because wasn't he like a 35-year-old nanny that took care of these old kids that didn't really need a nanny?
Yeah, and like
Scott
I guess
Baio.
Both of those daughters are attractive, even though one is like way more attractive than the other one. But like, I'm sure a 35-year-old guy that was a nanny would have fucked either one of those.
I think he would have fucked the young boy. He probably would fuck any of them. It's just such a weird job to have a nanny for people who are like 18 years old.
Yeah, I guess you just need someone to drive them around.
Yeah, and I guess one episode they had like body positivity, and the ugly sister went to the doctor and they told her she needed to gain weight. So like she comes home and she's just eating Snickers bars, and he's like, that's not the correct way to gain weight. And he's like, I'll make you a tuna fish sandwich. And you're like, what's fun about that? Let her eat these Snickers bars.
Let's see how bad she can get. I don't even remember the character's name on that show.
Wasn't Nicole Eggert one of them?
Yes. She was a babe.
She was also on Baywatch.
She said that Charles or whatever Scott Baio had sex with her, and she was a minor then.
Oh, I thought you meant
believe
like
it.
Yeah, I thought you meant she woke up and he was just like on top of her banging her. So it was like consensual underage sex?
Yeah, just your regular statutory rape.
You're like, Your Honor, it was consensual even though it was inappropriate.
But then you're like, but we're in Hollywood.
So 14 is the consenting age.
Yeah.
Imagine like getting in trouble for something like that and you're like, but Weinstein is raping everyone.
I know. They didn't even know then.
They probably
But
did.
I guess he was.
I feel like all those people, probably those two girls on that show had to fuck Weinstein first.
Well, he was raping back then because I think his first one took place in the early 80s.
Yeah. I'm sure they all knew about it. stuff like that gets around. You know how like we know stuff about comics? Stuff people know that Weinstein was like having sex with these women and raping. Was he also raping them, or was he just putting them in positions where he was using like sex to pretend to give them jobs?
Some of them I think he was raping, and then others were, I think majority was like a position of power in making, making them do stuff that probably they wouldn't normally do.
Do you remember when we went on that meeting and that woman told us she went up to Weinstein's room and he did nothing to her and she was upset?
And then we got in a huge fight with her.
And then we got into an argument with her and she called us not rape apologists. She said that we were Trump voters.
Yeah, that was one of the oddest. You know what that reminded me of? Back in my drinking days where I'd be at a house thinking, and I would be with my friend and we had just met this guy or this group of people at a bar, and we all go over there after hours to drink, and then you're like, I thought we were having fun, and the next thing you know, I'm getting kicked out of their house. Where I was like, I don't know what happened. I thought we were joking. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I guess we aren't joking. And now this guy's telling me to get the fuck out of his house.
That's so funny because that lady is exactly that person. Where like at first she was trying to be cool and make a joke like that, and then after she was like, we're in The Handmaid's Tale. And then I told her to jump out the window. She got so mad.
Well, first of all,
I said, well, you could
just we're not in The Handmaid's Tale. That's such a weird conclusion to jump to. Like, okay,
everyone
maybe
said that though.
It can escalate, but sometimes some people get so dramatic about things.
Oh, that lady hated us. And that's the first time I've ever seen you so mad.
Well, it was under the guise of we were going to go get help from this lady to help us pitch. And then the next thing we know, we're called Trump voters. And then we're in argument with her. And then, because we also started talking about how that year they made The Handmaid's Tale like a slutty Halloween costume. And I thought that was really funny. And
that is really funny.
I know. I was like, yeah, it's like shitting all over The Handmaid's Tale. They made it slutty. Like that. I feel like that's quite a feminist move. And she thought it wasn't.
Also, what's the difference between like a slutty handmaid and Little Red Riding Hood? It's
Nothing.
just kind of the same. It's the same exact costume.
You're like, lady, you're getting worked up for nothing.
I know. You're the one that opens with a rape joke. Like, it's so weird to get mad at us now when you were upset Weinstein didn't rape you.
That is, I know. It's so funny because we went there to get help for pitching a show, and then we left.
We left mad and dejected.
And also, she didn't even say goodbye. She just quietly left the table. She wasn't like, okay, well, I think that's it. I think we did it. She just was like, it was the weirdest exit I've seen. It's like she rolled away.
Yeah, it was so weird. All I know is we went to the bathroom and we came back. She was gone. It was so weird. What a weird meeting. And then it's so weird. We went there for her to help us with this pitch, and then we ended up leaving feeling worse about it. We didn't feel confident at all about doing this pitch with her there.
No, I don't think we ever did anything with Vadge ever again.
No, that's so hilarious, that lady.
Yeah, she really deflated our sails.
Oh, boy. That's why I don't love working with women.
Well,
some women are cool, but some are just like that lady where it's like, lady, stop. She's like a rich white woman that is pointing her finger down at us.
Well, that's the thing of okay, if you're such a feminist, why can't you deal with another group of ladies that have a different point of view than you do?
Feminists never can deal with that. Neither can liberals.
No.
I guess none of those groups really, but the liberals that are all the way to the left, if you don't have the same exact view as them, then they're like, you're a misogynist, you're a rapist, you're a racist, you hate everyone, you're transphobic, and you're like, hey man, if we all have the same exact opinion, it's just gonna be a dictatorship. It's such a weird thing where they want you to be so open and understanding, and then they're the least open and understanding. It's so weird.
No, I was thinking about that. Not that we are Trump voters, but there is part of me that's I think in Trump's circle, his network, he has hired a lot of women.
Well, so
a lot of hot women.
He wants to
Like-
just be able to rape them anytime he can.
His press secretary is like looks like a girl that would have worked at Hooters, and then Hope Hicks is like really attractive.
I don't know. I don't know what any of them are doing.
And then he has Kellyanne Conway.
Doesn't
and he had
everyone
Sarah
hate her, though?
Sanders. Yeah, everyone hates because they're like, on the right, but you're like, you can't say he's sexist.
But you can say he doesn't have any ugly women working for him. We want more ugly women working for Trump.
Well, they had Sanders, and they weren't happy with her.
I don't think she was that ugly, to be honest. I think she was fine. But I guess I see what you're saying. She's not somebody that, like, you want to jerk off into a plant for. I think that's the test. Do you want to jerk off into this plant when you see Sarah Sanders? Whatever her name is. I don't even know her name is.
That's what Hollywood executives talk about when they're dealing with movie stars. They're like, can we put her in this movie? Is she someone that you would want to jerk off into a plant?
You're like, probably not. I don't think so. She's somebody that I might jerk off into the grass for, but not into that plant right in the room. What a bizarre thing to just jerk off into plants. I guess there are a lot of them in offices.
I know, that is such a funny visual because I just picture the cum being so heavy for those leaves that it makes them like the I just picture a plant being like this. What is this?
Just being like, gross,
This is not
dude.
oxygen.
And they're like, is this photosynthesis? What is this? This is. I don't know why I picture this guy like when I heard about him jerking off into plants. This is how I pictured it. I don't know why. He was at like an outdoor restaurant. And you know how they have those plants outside? He was just jerking off onto a plant outside at like dinner. I don't know why I thought it was that situation, even though it probably wasn't. That's
Yeah,
what
it was
I thought
probably
of.
at like a plant near the bathroom.
Imagine like working there and seeing that on a plant though and being like, what is that?
Yeah, where you're like, that's not water. Like, is this like a new fertilizer? What has I think it's really disturbing to see jizz on a plant.
What if that really helped the plants to grow? And they were like, we just got to start jizzing on plants, guys.
I guess so, but I would be like, hey, if you're going to jizz on them, can you do it into the soil? Because that's really where it needs it.
That
'Cause
makes
I would
sense.
assume protein's probably good for the soil.
That makes sense. That's a good point. Good call.
That's a good
Jerk
point.
off into the soil.
That's the kind of management decisions I make at a restaurant.
Guys, we're seeing too much cum on the leaves and it's weighing them down. Can you just do it into the soil, please?
That's called working with your staff. What a pre-shift meeting.
What a crazy like restaurant where it's like we only want the hottest women. See how hot you are to see how fast the waitstaff jerks off into the plants.
That's like Hooters, though.
I guess so.
But that's why I don't think they have any plants at Hooters.
The sad thing about Hooters is if it's not busy, you're just hanging out dressed up like that. And then you're just wearing short shorts and like weird tank tops. Yeah, and you're just like hanging out in the break room with everyone. And you're like, we should just start a strip club. We're like one step away from making a lot more money.
Yeah, I remember I used to like going to Hooters with my my girlfriends. We used to like going, and it was actually a great place to meet guys or like hang out and be social because it's all dudes. And then also what we liked, we thought the buffalo wings were pretty great. And then when they would put ice in Ziploc bags and put it in your pitcher of beer.
Oh, so
to keep it cold.
But it didn't get watered down.
Yeah. And then the girls were always really nice.
You have to be nice because you want to make money. You ever go to a restaurant and the waitstaff is so nasty where you're like, this is the worst.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys nothing.
I remember one time, like, it always makes me laugh when the waiter, when he handed, this is how he gave coasters one time.
He just flung them at you. What a bizarre way to do something.
No, I know. It's great where you're like, are you mad? What did we do? Are you mad at us? But you're like, honestly, I waited tables and I would always start off like with a great attitude. And some days I would have a lot of fun. But man, there were days that just like interacting with human beings would break me. It was just like the worst people you're ever dealing with.
My friend who is a waitress she used to waitress at Fridays. She gave me the best advice for like if you're waitressing. If it's like a couple, you lean over to the guy and you lay your like leg on his leg, so it's kind of flirting without the other girl knowing. And then she said that they would usually give you a good tip. But like, what a weird thing.
That's
to just
ballsy.
Yeah, what a weird. I mean, she's also kind of slutty, but like, what a weird thing to just put your leg on somebody and hope they don't go, "Hey, get off of me." You're like it's also not by accident because you have to stand pretty close to them. Where it's like, oh, I didn't know your leg was right there. I'm just basically on top of you.
I know, and then you're like, they're in a booth, and you're just trying to like kind of crouch down so you can get your leg next to theirs, and then the lady's like, "What are you doing?" And you're like, "Nothing."
You're like, just making sure I get a good tip.
Why don't you mind your business?
Mind your business, whore. It's so funny to call women whores, even if they're not. It's just kind of like when you get into a fight with somebody and you tell them to go back to their country, not even because you mean it, just because you know it'll upset them. And it's even better if they're like a white dude because he's like, this is my country. And you're like, I bet it's not.
Yeah.
They get so mad.
Is it your country?
I don't think so.
No, I don't know. But that is really funny. I mean, I like calling. There is something fun to call like straight people gay. You're like that. Or like, again, like calling nuns sluts. Or, you know, something where they're not supposed to be. Look at these sluts.
That'd be funny if you're like the fun new nun who's just trying to spruce up the convent. And you're like, what's up, sluts? And you're like, we don't talk like that here.
I bet you there are some cool nuns. I picture most nuns are probably lesbians.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. If you're a nun and you've gotten like raped, can you still become a nun? Because technically that's sex, even though you weren't participating in it.
I have no idea. I'm assuming that you can because I think a lot of nuns did get raped.
And that's why they become nuns.
Well, I don't know if they get raped while they're nuns.
Oh,
Apparently,
my God.
there's like a whole story about like priests raping nuns. Apparently, I don't know. The Catholic Church had what rules they were living by in the organization of it, not just like people that are Catholic, but it's wild to me, all the stuff that you hear about it. Like there is one, like a bunch of stories of like teenage girls that would get pregnant, sent off to like those schools where you have your baby. But basically they were like slave labor and they had so many stillborn births or whatever. And they would just bury them in the backyard without a proper burial.
And then what? You went back to your house? Like after you had the baby and it died?
I don't know. I know there's like a movie about it called Philomena, and it's so sad and depressing. And you realize how awful a lot of Catholic institutions were to women and children.
They're still pretty awful.
I know. I try not to like, because I have, you know, there's a lot of people that are Catholic and like, I don't think they're bad, but I'm like, but your administration's bad. Or
a lot of institutions are typically terrible.
Yeah, they just hide and cover up stuff. Like even like the restaurant that I worked at in Houston was a huge chain. They would always have incidences, and instead of like firing the manager, like one guy would. A lot of like I remember managers trying to like sleep with the host staff, which was generally high schoolers, so they were kind of underage. And then sometimes I remember one girl we had that was maybe mentally disabled and underage, and one of the managers slept with her. But instead of firing, they just moved him to another restaurant location. And I was like, oh, this is just like the Catholic Church.
Wait a second. You had people with special needs working at the restaurant?
Yeah, we would have them as like bus boys or bus girls or
okay.
Like to make a little extra money and then clean, because it's not hard to like clean up the tables. And
I don't think I've ever seen a special needs person cleaning up tables.
I have.
Yeah, obviously, because you used to work with them. I just thought they did like separating buttons.
Well, here's the thing. It's really funny.
I don't know when I thought that.
I had a lot of special or disability kids in my study hall that it's funny now when I talk to you, I'm like, oh my God, maybe I'm disabled.
That's hilarious. Were you looking around like, am I the only one that's not special needs? And they're like, Sarah, we're going to tell you something today that's going to upset you. You are also special
Honestly,
needs.
I would love to be special needs. I never have to work. I get to stay at home.
It's like the pandemic.
Yeah.
We're all getting to
special
experience it.
needs.
We all have very special needs right now. Oh, I guess I've seen special needs people doing groceries, like packing up the groceries.
I mean, there's a lot of special needs that are actually pretty capable, probably better workers than some people that I've worked with in an office before. You're like, I just need you to show up. And if your parents are going to drive you here every day, then like that's way better than the one guy I worked with.
They should actually train the special needs people to do the rape kits.
Yeah, that's really easy.
Who do we tell that to get it started?
I think that's when, when we're supposed to call our senators.
Where we call them up and we're like, hey, we have a great idea. We think that you should have special needs people testing all the rape kits that haven't been tested in all of these precincts.
I love that where you're like, I don't need this proposition. And I also think special needs kids should be testing our rape kits.
That's hilarious if they were like, we never actually looked into that, but that seems like a good idea.
You're like, you have all these things and you have it seems like a pretty easy thing. You just dip. I'm assuming with these rape kits, I feel like you just dip the swab and stuff and then send it to the lab. And then they're just like, that seems pretty easy. I guess. Don't know. Maybe I'm naive about all this.
I think when you call your senator, you should ask him how you can have that done. Do they actually put you on the phone with him? There's no way.
I don't know. I think you know, because then like those guys also have to like do other stuff. I think you talk to their secretary or something.
So she just has a list of people who want to speak to the senator, and one of them is just like, hey, I want the alternate street parking to stop on my block, and she's like, okay, I'm writing that down.
Yeah. Ugh. I know. There's got to be even for regular jobs, they get really weird requests. There's got to be like crazy people that call the senator all the time, or your congressman.
Where it's like my landlord won't fix like something in my apartment, so they just keep calling the senator up, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah,
we could demolish that whole building. I wouldn't give a shit."
Well, I remember one time when I was managing like the food and beverage area of this hotel, I had one employee that thought that he should start getting paid by the time that he wakes up.
Is that what he said to you?
Yeah, he's like, I think I should get paid. He's like, I'm only waking up at this time to come here, and the travel and all that. Like, so he wanted, as soon as he woke up to get to his job, he needed to get paid right then and there. And I'm like, I don't know if that
was he serious.
Yes.
Was he being serious?
Yes, and the same guy one time, so I left. It was 5 o'clock. It was time to go. I think I had a show at the Creek. I get a phone call where he's like, can I go home early? I just called Cassandra a cunt.
That's so funny to just think like you have to. Where is this guy from?
The Bronx. His name was Elvis.
He's probably my neighbor. That seems like something. That seems like the most hilarious thing to say. Can I go home because I just called someone a cunt? What did you say?
Well, to me, like staying at work should be the punishment. I was like, I think I should let Cassandra let me know what she wants to be done. I guess technically I should have just been like, yeah, you can't be there. You can't call someone a cunt. That's like an offense at work. But in my mind, I'm like, no, you need to be punished and you need to stay at work.
What? You should have said to him, what did she do that you called her a cunt? Because if it was a cunt move, I'll let you go.
Well, knowing Cassandra, she probably just called him out on his lazy bullshit.
Oh, yeah. So she was being a cunt.
Yeah. And then what? Oh, he was always trying to get into the union at the hotel. Because he was in the restaurant area, you're not unionized. But he was trying to transfer to another area of the hotel so he can get unionized. So then I found out after I left that Elvis made it to the union, but then he got fired because I think he thought that when you're in the union, you can do whatever the fuck you want and get paid an extreme amount of money. So I think he was like, when he was asked to do like overtime, and he'd be like, no, that's not my job, or I'm not supposed to do that. They were like, yeah, you are. You're going to get paid time and a half. Like,
Yeah,
he
why
just
wouldn't you want to do that?
I think he thought working for the union, you don't have, it's like you don't have to do anything and you get paid $25 an hour, which it does look like that when you watch a lot of union workers in the hotel. You're like, that seems like a pretty sweet gig. They would just be sitting on the bed.
Do you think that because he was named Elvis, he thought he could be a diva? Like, it seems like such a weird name for somebody, and to also act so entitled to everything.
No, I don't know. I mean, yeah, first of all, I love that his name was Elvis. I'm like, I never really meet any Elvises, but
No, especially I knew this one lady whose husband was Elvis, and he was a total asshole. I think anyone named Elvis is an asshole.
yeah, I mean, it seems like it's almost like being called Jesus.
Yes, but
Yeah.
not as cool.
Because it's
Would you-
like there's only been one Elvis, the Elvis, and then everyone else, like, obviously has been named after Elvis. Because it's not like you're like, that name doesn't stand out. Is it biblical? Is there an Elvis in the Bible?
I don't think so. I think it's people who loved Elvis Presley, and now
I mean, he is
that's
pretty badass.
Yeah, but that's so awful to be named after someone like super famous like that. Like your parents name you Clint after like Clint Eastwood, and you're like, ugh, what a terrible name.
Well, I had a friend. I've told you. I don't know if I told you that I have a friend that was named their kids after famous comics. So they have a kid named Kinnison.
Yes.
They named one Cosby, and this was before he was indicted for 40 rapes.
I know. So what do you do now?
They just accepted it, I guess. I guess you
guess
say
you go
Bing
Bing-
Cosby. Is that
No.
Crosby?
I think you have to just go with your middle name.
Yeah, I think that's what ends up happening. But that's why I always say you shouldn't really name your kids after famous people. At least make sure they're dead and that they haven't done anything.
Or anything awful.
Yeah.
Like all those rapes. Like now it's like
Well-
you feel bad you didn't name after like another comic.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think about that. I had a next door neighbor. His name was actually Adolf. But
What
he
a
didn't go
bizarre-
by it.
Obviously, what a bizarre name.
Yeah. And this was like, he was probably named before, like, because he was born before Adolf came around or became so well known, Mr. Hitler. It's so funny to be like, Mr. Hitler.
Gilbert Gottfried had a really funny joke about one of Hitler's siblings was like a pedophile, and they're like, imagine being I guess, in the Hitler family that no one wants to talk about, like the pedophile one. It's such a funny joke where they're like, that's the one we won't talk about. Seems like that family was pretty fucked up.
Yeah, it sounds like they didn't really do a great job.
Well, I started reading Mein Kampf, and it's not an easy read. It really is like hard, and I just remember Hitler's dad was like a real dick.
Oh, is it a bio?
I don't think so. Maybe. I don't know. It's not written by him, so that's autobiography. Yeah, I guess it's a biography. I don't know. I could be making all that up. All I know is I was reading it, and I was like, this is like not a page turner.
I know. A lot. Like, I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, I should read the Bible. So no
Oh, yeah.
stories. But then you're like, you try to read it and you're like, I can't even understand this language. I wish they BuzzFeed it for me. Just broke it down to bullet points to each story. Like, this is what happens here.
He's
'Cause
seen
some
a
of those
burning
stories
bush.
are amazing.
Yeah, it's just like made up garbage.
Yeah.
It's
But
just
it's
like
like
a crazy.
Violent. It's like Game of Thrones shit.
Yeah, it's just like a homeless person writing a book about stuff while he's on drugs. That's kind of what the Bible's like.
Like Fear and Loathing.
Yeah, and just making shit up. Like, I don't know.
It sounds
I've never read the
fascinating.
Bible. It's
You
pretty
know what's
boring.
really funny? We didn't even get to. We were like, let's answer questions. We didn't get to any questions.
We'll do that on the Patreon episode.
Okay, we'll do
Guys,
that on the Patreon.
Become Patreons and hear more hilariousness, and we answer questions sometimes.
Yeah, and then sometimes our episodes run extra long, so then I snip those and make them leftovers, so you guys can
Yeah.
get extra scoops.
Yes.
But join our Patreon, you guys. We really appreciate, and when you reach out, we do respond. So we like talking. and vadgepodcast@gmail.com. And
Follow us on Instagram, and next episode we will answer some questions.
yeah, we will answer questions.
And we're trying to get a couple of special guests on. We're not
Yes.
going to tell you who.
But they're going to be fun.
And special.
Yeah.
Special
and
needs.
Special needs. Some of my friends from back in the my school
We're going to
days.
show them we're going to show them how to test rape kits.
Alrighty.
Thanks, guys.